What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTP Sports. And with a day off today, nothing, big going on, nothing truly important going on this week. No Phillies today, nothing. Well, there's just maybe one little detail that we probably all know that we should be focusing on. It's the start of the NFL season. It's football season. Football is back. The Eagles are back. The Eagles trying to get back to the Super Bowl and get the job done this time. Jalen Hurts looking to secure that MVP. I think he can have a gigantic year, even better than what he did last season. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I cannot wait for it. Sunday afternoon, New England in Foxborough, Gillette Stadium, Eagles versus Patriots, week 1. Can't wait. Versus Bill Belichick and that Patriots team. They're not that good. They're not that good. So I'm expecting a lot of good things from your Eagles in week 1. It's going to be a very fun time. It definitely is. I cannot wait for the season to start. And we got football tonight. Kansas City Chiefs versus Detroit Lions. That's like a round and a half hour or so. So once this stream ends, y'all can go and tune into that. That's exactly what I am going to do. And just basically enjoy the rest of the night. Football's back. It's an exciting time. The season's starting to change. We're transitioning into the fall period. Best time of the year, no doubt. Getting into that beginning to middle of September. Baseball season's just winding down. You're getting close to October. A nice little, hopefully a red October for your Phillies to go along with the start of the Eagles season. It's just nothing better than that. It just gives me remembrance of last year and just everything that was going on. The Eagles just dominating the beginning of the season, going along with, the Phillies postseason run. It gets to the point where you're having Eagles and Phillies playoff games on the exact same day. Remember that for, what was it, the World Series game or something like that? It was a Thursday night. I believe it was the Eagles playing the Houston Texans during when the Phillies were playing the Astros in the World Series. So it's some pretty fun stuff. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. But in terms of, not both teams making the playoffs, but in terms of, hopefully we don't have to worry about Phillies, playoff situations on the same day as an Eagles game. Hopefully that's not the case. You know what I mean. But overall, it's going to be a fun season regardless. What we're going to do here for you guys that are slowly joining the stream, we're going to go over some predictions, go to some of you guys in the live feed, some guys in the voicemail line, talking about, basically season predictions, what are we excited for, what are, our biggest concerns about going into the year, because there's definitely some room to be a little concerned about the Eagles just because, and the main thing that I'm just like focusing on for concerns is basically just, we saw how, relatively healthy the Eagles were last year. They had some minor occurrences, with the C.J. Gardner-Johnson injury. Dallas Goedert was out for a little bit. Jalen Hurts got injured for a little bit there as well. But nothing like too overly major. Nothing that was, season ending. Nothing that was, keeping these guys out for the rest of the season. They missed some time with injury, but they were managing to get back into the lineup and get back into the role that they rightfully, deserve. And basically this team was majority healthy going into the playoffs and going into the Super Bowl last year. And honestly, that could be one of my biggest concerns this year. We saw in a few preseason games, even though it wasn't the really, main guys right now on the roster, but we saw a couple of season-ending injuries, for guys like Sean Bradley, who played a, pivotal role in special teams last year. He was one of the main guys that was being used. He's gone for the rest of the year because of his, major injury in preseason. Nolan Smith, he got into an injury in one of the preseason games where his shoulder just did not look pretty. I don't think it's, anything major for him, but it just, some of the things just, didn't look the best. And can the Eagles basically replicate the almost perfect bill of health that they had last year? It's kind of difficult to do that in a full NFL season. It's pretty rare to, go a week without someone getting injured or going through a season without like some type of major injury to where some guy's season is just completely over with. That's the one thing I'm just scared of. Like, what happens if, Jalen Hurts just gets hits in the wrong way? What happens if, Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown get hit in the wrong way or something like that? Even though I'm not really afraid of that because Jalen Hurts knows how to take care of himself. He's in front of one of the best offensive lines in the world, and he knows when to get down and to not take a stupid hit. He probably did that once last year, and sadly that did result in the one injury that kept him out for a couple of weeks. But Jalen Hurts is one of the smartest players on the field. I'm sure he'll know to get himself in the best position possible to not get hurt. But sometimes unfortunate things happen, even when you're trying to prevent an injury, or even, it just happens. Sometimes shit just happens, and you can't control anything like it. So that's definitely one of the things that I'm most concerned about with the Eagles team. In terms of like positional wise, it's always going to be special teams. That was the weakest point of the team last year. Michael Clay and all that crap. Terrible punting, not really doing much on special teams like punt returns, kickoff returns. Really nothing really impactful in that area. Is it going to change this year? I have no clue. Personally, I have no clue. And of other positions, maybe the linebacker position, just because you lost some key pieces there last year, that's probably one of your more weaker, areas of the team. And that's just like going into discussion of like there's so many areas of the team that are stacked. Offensive line, of course, defensive line, adding that position there. You also add some nice young talent to that defensive line with Jalen Carter from the draft last year. A nice Nolan Smith to go along and get mentored by guys like Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick. Guys that, had multiple double-digit sack seasons, even though this team's not going to replicate the 70-plus sacks that they had last year. It's going to be a question mark, I'm excited to see what this defense can be under Sean Desai. Of course, during the preseason, it was just, not doing too much in the playbook, not trying to show off too much to the rest of the league what the playbook's going to be this year. You were just basically being very vanilla, very basic and all that. So I want to see what Sean Desai can, do this year and not be, overly as, I would say, not as aggressive, or a little more aggressive than Jonathan Gannon's defense was, because Jonathan Gannon's defense, they really tried to defend against the big play, and sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, but it did result in, a very dominant defensive front that, made the opposing quarterback's life a living hell. But sometimes when they went up against opposing, quarterbacks that were better than average, sometimes they got torched a little bit, when you go up against a guy like Pat Mahomes, good, best quarterback in the league. But sometimes the secondary got torched, and we got to see how they change it up a little bit to see, no matter what quarterback they go up against, that guy's going to get shut down. They're not going to be able to make those gigantic plays happen. Like on a 3rd and long situation, on a 2nd and long, the defense keeps at bay, and they hold them back to it, to force them to punt and force them to give the Eagles back the ball so Jalen Hurts can go out there and do his thing. So that's definitely the, things that are looking towards for this defense. How is Sean Desai going to implement his type of system into that? That's basically one of the biggest things there. And if you're looking at the offense, Brian Johnson taking control of the offensive coordinator with Shane Steichen leaving, I'm basically expecting more of the same stuff, but you definitely got a much different running back room now with like 4 interchangeable guys with Kenneth Gainwell, Swift, Penny, Boston Scott. That's going to be a lot of interchangeable pieces there. And of course, how Jalen Hurts like to utilize his legs as well. So there's definitely some interesting things going on there. DeAndre Swift, you could definitely utilize him in the pass game as more. So he could be type of a dual threat weapon in that position. Definitely more, I would say a little bit more impactful than, a Miles Sanders could be, because Miles Sanders was basically useless in the passing game because he could not catch for shit. So that's definitely something to be very excited for. This offensive line's still going to be this offensive line, regardless if they lose a guy like Isaac Seumalo. And Isaac Seumalo, he's a starter in this league, but when you compare him to other guys like, Jason Kelce, Landon Dickerson, Lane Johnson, and everything like that, it's just Jordan Mailata. It's just... He's Isaac Seumalo is a starter on any other team in this league, but when you put him up against this, combined with the Eagles' offensive line, the other players, he's just like another guy. That's basically it. So that's how stacked this offensive line is, and I'm just expecting them to continue the dominance that they've been doing. Lane Johnson, hasn't allowed a sack since 1752. Basically, at this point, that's how dominant he has been for the past couple of years, and we saw how dominant he was, especially with the major injuries that he was going through during the playoffs. And the dude still found a way to hold people accountable, still hold people in check, and not let guys get to Jalen Hurts from his side of the field. So that's some special stuff. That definitely is. Can't wait to see how Landon Dickerson progresses, Jordan Mailata, and Jason Kelce just continuing to, be Jason Kelce. So that's going to be some fun stuff there. But, Devontae Smith, what's he going to be like in his third season in the league? A.J. Brown, is he just going to continue his dominance from last year? So there's a lot of fun stuff with this Eagles team. Jalen Hurts, oh my God, I can't wait to see how much more this guy improves, because it feels like every single season so far, he's just drastically improved. And he was an MVP runner-up last year, and there's still more in his game that you probably could say could improve, and I'm sure he's going to improve on that mightily. He's still going to be a dynamic threat in the run game. His legs are going to be a major impact. The Eagles, when they get down to the goal line, that very close yardage, they're definitely going to utilize the QB sneak, the thing that they love to do. Jalen Hurts can bench press over 50,000 pounds at this point with how strong his legs are. I believe it was the NFL that, like some other teams, were trying to complain about the Eagles overusing the quarterback sneak just because it's so deadly with them, and how good the offensive line is and how good Jalen Hurts is running that play. It's just a funny thing on how much that works for this team. So I just can't wait to see those little details as well. But I also want to see, how Kenneth Gainwell, takes over and, tries to establish himself as, a good option for the running back room, a top option for the running back room. It's definitely going to be some competition. Like I said, with Penny, is he going to be able to stay healthy for a full season? That's going to be, maybe easier because you can interchange so many of the guys in that room with DeAndre Swift, with Kenneth Gainwell, with Boston Scott. So he's not going to be seeing as much reps on the field. So maybe it keeps his body more fresh. Because when Penny's out there on the field and he is healthy, he could be a very dangerous threat. We saw those in the glimpses with the Seattle Seahawks. So the biggest concern was, he just can't stay healthy for a full season. But when he is healthy and he's on the field, he's a dangerous threat out there. He could gain a lot of yardage. Biggest key is just stay healthy. And with this running back room, with all those interchangeable pieces, it definitely could be a thing that he could stay healthy for a full year. So we're going to have to be looking into that. How DeAndre Swift, I believe this is the last year of his contract. How is he going to, perform this year, trying to make some money in the open market? So that's definitely going to be an interesting thing there. Even going back to the defense, James Bradbury and Darius Slay, they were a great duo on the corners last year. How are those guys going to continue? And maybe, mentor some of the young guys that the Eagles brought in. So that's going to be something that we're going to have to, look towards as the year goes along. I'm just, thinking of things that, like, I'm excited for a lot of things with this team, but it's just, I get to watch Jalen Hurts for another year, the start of season. That's just going to be insanely fun. Watching this guy, just, his demeanor, his leadership, the way that he strives to improve, he doesn't let the noise get to him, even though he says that. I believe he does listen to the noise out there, and that, like, motivates him more. But this dude is just another breed of athlete. Dude just wants to go out there. He wants to improve every single day. He wants to compete. He wants to win. And that's exactly what he's going to do for this organization. We all know with the NFC this year, it's not the best conference. There's really not that many strong teams there. So the Eagles are definitely going to be seen as a favorite to get out of the NFC, to get back to the Super Bowl. If you're looking at some of the other teams in the NFC that could pose a threat to the Eagles, the 49ers are always going to be there. The Cowboys are always going to be there. Some people think the Giants are going to be involved in there as well, but their schedule gets tougher this year. So can you really rely on Saquon Barkley to be healthy for a full season? And is Daniel Jones going to live up to the contract that he signed? I have no idea. You could throw, I guess, the Vikings in there, but how far is really Kirk Cousins going to take them? I know they had a solid season last year, but, Kirk Cousins is not the guy that's going to take you to the promised land. So that's definitely, not a team that can pose a threat, even though they got one of the best wide receivers in the world in Justin Jefferson. But still, It's just, at the end of the day, you can't rely on Kirk Cousins. That's the bottom line there. Seattle, I know a lot of people are very high on Seattle this year, but is Geno Smith really going to replicate what he did last year? The guy's been borderline bad, a bad QB for his entire career. Then he goes into Seattle last year. The team has no expectations, and they shock the entire world, and they find their way to having a good record. So is the league going to be surprised by that this year, or are they going to find a way to try and stop Seattle? Even though they did get some good picks in the draft this year, that could make an impact on their roster. What is Seattle truly going to be this year? I can't fully buy in on Seattle. I think they're still going to be a solid team, but I can't buy on them being one of the best teams in the NFC just because I can't rely on Geno Smith to replicate what he did last season because over the majority of his career, he's not been good. He's not been good. So until I see Geno Smith be good for another year in a row, that's when I'll believe it, is when Geno Smith can prove that he could be good for another year. And when he does that, then I'll buy into Seattle being a serious threat. But basically looking around the rest of the NFC, like, what else is there? Green Bay's not a threat. Could Detroit be a threat? They're definitely a up-and-coming, very young team, so they can make some noise in the NFC this year. The Saints, they got Derek Carr as their quarterback, but what really much is there for them? The Panthers, they just got, Bryce Young in the draft this year with the first overall pick. They're a very young team. Not really expecting much from them this year. The Rams, they're not going to be good. The Cardinals, they're going to be a dumpster fire. They're terrible. They're going to suck. They are going to suck. They are tanking this year. No doubt. And I love every second of it because Jonathan Gannon is a hack. All those stupid quotes that he's been doing on Hard Knocks for them. Oh my God, they're terrible. That's stupid. What did anyone drive or did they take public transportation or something like that? Did you have a fire in your gut? Did you have a fire in your gut? Did it light a fire? And everyone's just like staring at him like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Jonathan Gannon is a loser. He basically is. Jonathan Gannon is a loser. Look at some other teams. The Falcons, what are they going to be? Tampa Bay's not going to be good. Looking at the Commanders, they're going to have a good defense, but they're going with another unproven quarterback. And Commanders fans are trying to sell themselves that this guy is going to be the future of the team. Don't do anything right now. I don't think the Commanders are going to be a good team. I just don't see it. I do not see it at all. Dallas, they're going to make noise, of course, this year. That team has a ton of talent, but how much are they going to get held back by Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy? That's the big issue there. Mike McCarthy is definitely going to hold that team back tenfold. And is Dak Prescott going to have another season replicated of what he did last year with all those interceptions? We'll see. We'll definitely see. It's definitely more stacked in the AFC. That division is stacked with all the quarterbacks in the world, God damn it. Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen, they're definitely going to make a lot of noise this year. The Jets definitely are going to be making some noise this year. They got one of the best young defenses in the NFL. They just brought in Aaron Rodgers. Even though he sucked the past couple of years, there's definitely a lot of hype surrounding them. I'll see it when I believe it if Aaron Rodgers can, find a way to regain his form because he has not been good the past couple of seasons. So I'll hold off on the Jets. Their defense is legit. I'll hold off on Aaron Rodgers until he proves that he can get back to his, form that he could be being one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Miami, is Tua going to be healthy this year? Are they going to be able to protect him with all the concussions that he had? Question mark. Bengals, Joe Burrow, that's a really good team. The Steelers, they're a team that just never goes below 500 in the Mike Tomlin era. So that team's going to be over 500. Baltimore, Lamar Jackson, they're going to be a solid team. Cleveland, basically, they're Cleveland. That's basically it. The AFC South, that division is completely terrible. The Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence had a up-and-coming year last year, Doug Peterson and all that stuff, so I would assume they're the favorite for the South to win that division. The Titans, they're, they got a good defense. That's basically it. Offense, not much. Not much there. And the Colts, the Texans, they're just there. What can Shane Steichen do with, that young team in Indianapolis? We'll see. And for the West, is Russell Wilson going to have a good year this year? Sean Payton as the head coach? Are the Denver Broncos actually going to live up to the hype? That's a good question mark. Kansas City, the Chiefs are going to be the Chiefs. That's no question mark right there with Patrick Mahomes and all that stuff. Even though Travis Kelce is going to miss the first game this year with, I believe it was a knee injury. I believe a hyperextended knee. So that definitely could make a huge impact if, say, he's out long term. Even though they haven't said anything like that, he's just missing this first week. But still, the Chiefs, regardless, Pat Mahomes under center, that team's going to be dangerous no matter what. The combination of Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes, it's dangerous no matter what. We thought they were going to take a drop-off last year after they lost Tyreek Hill in the trade to Miami. No, they just go and win the Super Bowl. They prove everyone wrong there. So never doubt the Chiefs. Just never doubt the Chiefs. The Raiders, they're the Raiders. They're definitely a football team. And the Chargers, can they prove that they can actually live up to their talent? Can Justin Herbert, who is a nice young quarterback, can he prove that, can their new offensive, everything like that, can they find a way to prove to, not be the Chargers and not, punch all their fans in the dick, whatever fans that they got? We all saw how they choked in the wild card game last year against Jacksonville. So we'll definitely see. We'll definitely see how that happens. We will. So before we get into the Anytime Hotline, I want to go over the Eagles' schedule this year just to look at it and see, maybe do a little schedule prediction for this team, because if we look at the Eagles last year, they went 14-3. Definitely, yeah, schedule played a factor, but at the end of the day, you can't control what the schedule is in front of you. You just go out and play the games that are in front of you. That's basically all you got to do. So, the schedule this year definitely gets a little tougher when you get into the middle stretch and the back stretch of it, but the beginning stretch of the schedule is definitely a little easier, so maybe we can see a really good start for this Eagles team and they just build the momentum as the season goes along. If I'm thinking record-wise for this Eagles team, I don't think they're going to win 14 games like they did last year. I think they're going to maybe win a little less, maybe like around 12-13. I'll say 13-4, 12-5. I think that's a respectable record to think for this Eagles team, and I still think that's plenty enough to win the division wholeheartedly. They might not win the I'm trying to think of, can they win the number 1 seed in the NFC? That definitely could be up for grabs. I would say they'll still be in competition for the first or the second seed in the NFC. I think it's going to be either one of those two spots they land in. So yeah, I'll say 13-4. I think they win one less game than they did last year. That's basically it. Just because of the schedule gets a little more difficult, but I still believe in this team. They're still going to dominate offensively. There's just, those little question marks on defense with the linebacker and how Sean Desai is going to implement his run. So, let's go through the schedule. Let's see how the Eagles will get to 13-4. Let's see. Game is Sunday afternoon, 4:25 in Foxborough. First game of the week, first game of the season. I think the Eagles win that. No doubt. I think the Eagles win that opening game. And then you go right into Thursday Night Football. So we get a game this Sunday and then instantly next Thursday as the home opener on Thursday night against the Minnesota Vikings. I think the Eagles win that one too. So I think the Eagles start off 2-0. And honestly, I think they could start off 3-0 because you get this Sunday, you get Thursday Night Football, then you get thrown into Monday Night Football on the 25th in Tampa Bay. I honestly can see this team starting off 3-0. I definitely can see that. Then you play the Washington Commanders on October 1st. That's what I'm looking at. I think this Eagles team can start off 5-0 with the competition that they're playing to start the year. New England, Minnesota, Tampa Bay, Washington, and Los Angeles, the Rams. I honestly think this team can start 5-0. I wouldn't be shocked at all. I think the toughest team that they play in those first 5 games is Minnesota. That's basically it. And then we start getting into, a little more of the tougher stretch of the schedule. The New York Jets. Looking at the New York Jets, Aaron Rodgers, their stacked defense. They're playing in New York. I'll say they lose to the Jets. I think one of the games they lose this year is against the New York Jets. And then they come back home on a Sunday Night Football against the Miami Dolphins. I think they beat the Dolphins there at home. Then they play the Washington Commanders on the road. I think they beat Washington there, so that's a nice little 2-game winning streak. So what would that be, 7-1? I think Dallas at home before the bye week. I think they beat Dallas at home. I think they do. So they're 8-1 going into the bye week. And then you get to the tougher part of the schedule right here. And looking at it right now, I think they lose to KC coming out of the bye week. I think they do. They're in KC. It's Monday Night Football, prime time. I think they lose that Super Bowl rematch right there. And that's just what I'm feeling. Buffalo at home. Let's say they beat Buffalo. I think they beat Buffalo. I think they beat San Francisco. I think they do lose to Dallas on the road. I think they do. And they might lose to Seattle. And then you're looking at the next 3 games. And then I'll say they'll lose to Dallas and they'll lose to Seattle. No, actually, flip that. I think they lose to Kansas City and Buffalo. Then they beat San Francisco. They lose to Dallas on the road. They beat Seattle on the road. Well, they win 4 straight to finish off the year. In Seattle, Giants, Cardinals, Giants. They win 4 in a row to finish off the season, and that equals a 13-4 record for these Philadelphia Eagles going into the playoffs. So yeah, that's what I think. So before we end it off here, we're going to go to the Anytime Hotline to see what Sean says. So let's go there. Let's see what Sean has to say on this Eagles season to start.
So now I got to transition to Eagles talk. I'm so used to Phillies post-game reviews. All right, I'll make 2 predictions. One kind of related to the Eagles and the other for the Eagles as a whole. Start off with this one. I predict that the Arizona Cardinals, led by former great Eagles leader of men, Jonathan Gannon, will be the worst team in the NFL in 2023-24. I have my over-under for wins for that team at 3. As for the Eagles, and I'm not usually a predictor guy, but I'll put it out here before the opener. My prediction this year is that the Eagles get back to the Super Bowl and actually win it, actually close the deal. I think they know that the core 4 of veterans, this is probably their last shot at it. And I think bringing those Georgia kids in, guys that are used to winning, guys that have played in front of 75, 80,000 people, sometimes in NFL stadiums, that have had success, I think that carries over. Nolan Smith said it the night that he was drafted on the phone with Roseman. You drafted me because you want to win, though. And I do believe, again, that carries over. I think the Eagles had a golden opportunity last year and didn't close the deal. This year, I think they do.
Ooh, I love it. Eagles getting back to the Super Bowl. They finished the job this year. Oh, yeah, I'm definitely very excited to see some of the young talent from Georgia, Jalen Carter. How can Jordan Davis, on maybe a quiet freshman year, his rookie season in the NFL. How is he going to turn out in his sophomore season? Definitely probably is going to take a bigger role now with the loss of Javon Hargrave. How is Jalen Carter? I'm very excited to watch this kid play. Same thing with Nolan Smith and all that stuff. And yeah, for a lot of the veterans on this team, Brandon Graham, Jason Kelce, Lane Johnson, and all that stuff, Fletcher Cox, maybe this could be the last go-around for these guys. And, maybe that just adds more fuel to the fire to try to win this thing. There's always going to be fuel in Jalen Hurts' fire, though, so I'm definitely excited for that. No doubt. So, thank you for the call, Sean. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're getting very, very close to game time for kickoff for the Chiefs and the Lions, so I'm definitely going to end it off right before that, starts. Let you guys, relax a little bit before the kickoff happens. I believe it's 8:20 the game starts, so you got a little bit of 20 minutes here, so I'm definitely going to end it off right now. So, let's go Birds. Definitely stay tuned for that on Sunday, that recap. But in due time, we'll have the Phillies recaps the next couple of days, so definitely stay tuned for all that stuff. But for now, thank you for joining tonight, everybody. Don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Don't forget to drop a like. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It does me a great deal of service. Also, use the code TTPSPORTS, $20 off your first purchase at SEATGEEK. Great deal. Do not pass it up. Thank you once again, everyone, for joining tonight. Go Birds, and I'll see you next time.